Welcome to the Faith, Hope, and Payroll podcast, where we talk business, leadership, and payroll from a Christian worldview. Join us as we dive into the real-life decisions that shape the people behind every organization. The world offers darkness. Journey with us as we seek the light of the world. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Faith, Hope, and Payroll podcast. I'm your host, Eric Jones, with my co-host, Mr. David Franzonello.
Hello, everybody.
And we are welcoming a client, a partner to the podcast today, Mr. Willie.
You love that now.
You want to say hi?
Hello, guys.
I do. That's his legal name is Willie. I did not know that. I assumed it was William.
Okay.
So I met Will. He goes by Will most of the time. What was that?
I said, see what happens when you do background checks? Get their legal name.
You get their legal
right,
name.
yeah. Well,
there you go. So I met Will. I think it's been probably 5 or 6 years now. It's probably pre-COVID. On I think it was the Maestrom conference was the first time we met, if I remember
That is
correctly.
correct, yes. Yep.
And yeah. So you own a background screening company. At the time, you also owned a payroll company, and you're actually starting up a new consulting company right now as well, which is very exciting. You want to maybe tell us just a little bit? I've got some specific questions, but tell us a little bit about the background screen company.
Yes, my business partner and I, we own the Orsus group. This is going on 20 years now. So it's been quite a bit. It's a business model that we created specifically for the staffing business, but it expanded to the non-staffing side. The service that we provide is basically from any type of criminal history check to verification of credentials, employment, to even occupational health. And this is on a nationwide footprint. So it's been going well. We've got a great system that a lot of our clients use, especially with the changing landscape of background checks. So you always have to keep up with the technology and the innovation to ensure that you have the efficiency and the ease of using the system.
No, absolutely. When we got talking, so I was very interested because I had a client recently who NSF'd on one of their payrolls, and I came to find out after the fact that while I was doing payroll for them, they had gone through a bankruptcy, a legal bankruptcy in the state of New York. And I didn't know anything about it. We had to run a background screen on them when we first brought them on, but I haven't run a background screen 5 years later. And in the middle, you never really know what's going on. You guys have had clients that deal with children or other vulnerable populations. And this is a real issue because you never know what happened, after you did that initial background screen. Even if you did another one a year later, you still don't know what's going on in the middle. Tell me a little bit about this new product that you guys have.
Yeah, you've actually hit one point about nonprofits, right? And when I say nonprofits, organizations that they're dealing with either children or a vulnerable population, senior citizens, people who may not be able to take care of themselves, right? It's great that people now, organizations are running background checks, but you're absolutely right. While they're an active employee, you don't know what's going on, in their home, these employees' home life. And it may be fine during the work life, but things happen, whether it's a poor decision or you may have a bad person, right, who's intentionally trying to cause harm. So, one of the products that we actually put into place last year is what we call our continuous monitoring. And what that really is it's a system that we have a roster of, an organization may have a roster of employees that goes into the system. And if there comes to a point where an individual employee, say, is driving under the influence and they get pulled over by law enforcement, and get arrested, it's going to ping into our system saying, hey, here is Joe, and he just got arrested for a DUI. Now, let me also mention, arrest record may not be anything, but it allows the employer to be in the know and address the situation. It may not necessarily terminate the employee, but address the situation before it becomes a bigger problem.
Absolutely.
Right. So, and I'll give you a prime example. There's an organization, and they're a nonprofit where they are advocates or supporters of victims in domestic abuse, and they provide help, assistance for these victims, and mostly women. Well, come to find out that the president of this organization ended up getting arrested for domestic abuse. They were never known of that situation. It just happened that one of the senior police officers, I don't know if he's a chief, happened to run across this document, this arrest document of the president who was arrested, and he happened to be on the board. So fortunately for them, they nipped it in the bud. He had to resign, but it's not a bad look. It's a bad look for the organization, for a person on the board or leadership who actually committed a criminal behavior that they are totally against, right? So our monitoring system would have picked that up. And again, for a nonprofit where they're getting grants, donations, your reputation means a lot, and you want to address this right away to basically nip it in the butt before it becomes a bigger issue, and potentially ruin that reputation. Because if the media ends up getting a hold of it, they can create their own narrative, right? So, but they were able to capture it before and create their own narrative and basically address the situation before it becomes bigger.
No, absolutely.
So it happens all the time. Manufacturing companies, it's quite often I hear HR managers saying, hey, you know what, I'm used to police and law enforcement coming in because there's a warrant for someone's arrest and they're actually employed at our location. Well, that's a huge disruption, right? It's a bad look on the company when you have police officers looking for an employee because there's an arrest warrant out there for them. So the monitoring piece addresses all those pieces to, again, want to protect the employees, protect their assets, and also protect their reputation.
When you were talking about, this system being able to check in on what's happening today, it reminded me of a time, Eric, I don't know if I ever told you, but I got a speeding ticket coming back from National Cheeseburger Day. I was rushing back from McDonald's. And it makes me wonder, though, just like from like a privacy standpoint, like, do employees have to buy into this? Does that not matter? Like, is this part of an employment agreement up front that there's going to be these ongoing checks? And then you're talking about nonprofits. So I'll just pile on, like, does it make sense for some organizations versus others? I think the answer is probably yes, but maybe you can answer kind of the privacy portion of it.
Yeah. So yes, you always want to have some type of policy, a company policy for disclosing that this is what we do as a company to safeguard and the workplace, right? So it's a knowledge, and then for the employees to acknowledge that they monitor. It's no different than you have other companies where they monitor for motor vehicle record. Pharmaceutical companies, for the representative, they monitor for their MVRs, or some trucking companies. So again, I want to make sure that people understand that the system is not a kind of like a big brother or a tool to terminate somebody. It's to be aware of something that's maybe an issue, to address it before it becomes bigger, right? And so, like, for our employees, everyone in our office, they know that they are being monitored. everyone signs our employee acknowledgement saying that, hey, this is what we do, because we deal with sensitive information. And with sensitive information, we cannot have it breached. So there are certain policies that we have in place to ensure that the safety of our clients, safety of these candidates that we have in their system. So hopefully that helps. And then, Dave, yes, in terms of the type of industries, I'm not going to say this applies to every single industry out there, every company, but there will be organizations that will probably need it, right? Nonprofits, what else? Hospitals, healthcare, financials, especially healthcare. Now you have, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but hospitals tend to use contractors to come on site. Well, before they come on site, they get vetted and they get a badge. Well, that badge typically expires after 1 year. Well, how do we know that that contractor didn't get in trouble for that year duration until they get until that badge gets renewed? Here's a really quick story of a very large hospital, and they had a electrician that had a badge that would go in and deal with the electrical circuits and whatnot. They had to do some repairs. They found out a year later that he was supposed to get reissued a badge, but 6 months into it, he had a conviction. He was convicted for a drug possession. Well, this guy happened to be working on an electrical panel or something at the pharmacy in the hospital. You probably don't want someone with that type of background in there, and they had no clue. So they called us and said, this is our issue. We have about 1,500 contractors that come on site, construction workers, whatever it may be, and they get a badge, but then we find out there's maybe a couple here or there that they're not eligible for a badge anymore because they failed the background check. And we should have known that this person had this while they were on assignment for a year.
No, absolutely. So an example like that, those are all third-party contractors, so there's a lot more from a legal perspective leeway to require things.
Correct.
Can any employer require this constant monitoring, or is it only legally applicable in certain industries? I don't know. Like, for example, you work a fast food place. Does it matter if they've had a DUI even? It does matter from a moral perspective, but like from that business perspective, like is there like a legal, I don't know, what am I trying to say?
Like, do they have to have a justification to say, hey, I can check because of your role, right? And so that would seem, that was kind of my question too, is like in certain industries I can get it, but like at a fast food restaurant, or at a payroll company, does it matter if Dave got a ticket, on his way home from National Cheeseburger Day? Does Eric have the right? And maybe he does. Maybe as long as we have it in an agreement up front that it's going to be checking on this. But I'd be curious, is it legally prohibited in some situations, even with an agreement?
Well, I will tell you that I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you legal advice, right? But there's no, I am not aware of any law out there saying that prohibits the company to monitor their employees while they're employed. The great thing about our system, though, is you can pick and choose the type of criminal behavior that you're looking for. So, Dave, you got a ticket for, like for our folks, we don't care about any type of driving infractions or tickets because it has no relationship to what we do for our work, right? You may just care about theft, fraud, right? You may care about if you're a salesperson, you may care about if they have a suspended license, right? Not necessarily a ticket, but hey, did you have a DUI? If you're working for an organization where they're dealing with children, you probably want to know if they have a sex offender registry, right? Or they've been convicted for a delinquency, contributing to a delinquency of a minor, right? So you don't necessarily, there's a laundry list of different type of criminal behavior, all the way from the criminal types of the felony to the misdemeanor and the behavior in and itself. and we allow the clients to choose or select what really matters the most based on their industry.
That makes total sense. So let's say I've got an existing, like my company, for example, I actually do run background checks on people when they first start. But I don't do this continuous background check, so I wouldn't know what's going on, because we also deal with sensitive information. We've got date of birth, we've got socials, a lot of stuff. What would the process look like for an existing business with existing employees to all of a sudden introduce this type of program? Does it start with, I've got a one-page disclosure that I have to have everyone sign? Is that cause for termination if they won't sign it? What does that practically look like for a business that wants to adopt this, after they're already up and running?
So typically, it's no different than if someone wants to adopt a whole background screening process, right? Because maybe they've just never done a background check. So usually what we say is you want to obviously create a policy within the organization of, one, why you're doing this, and the purpose of it, and then announcing this to your employees. And at the same time, so here's what we did. We told our folks, look, you guys all been background checked, and you understand the importance of why we do a background check, and now we're going to introduce this monitoring. And this is how we're going to do it. So again, it's about what's happening in the future, not in the past, because we already did a background check, right? So once we do that, then what we did was we created an acknowledgement form, employee acknowledgement form, allowing the employees to understand that this is what we're going to do. It does not mean that we're going to terminate you. It means that we just need to address the issue if something comes up. And I will tell you that we had one individual who ended up having, she ran a stop sign. She rolled a stop sign. And she came up and she advised us, like, hey, I did this. Again, no different than a pharmaceutical company or a trucking company where they had some type of operating violation, right? A motor violation, and acknowledging it to their employer. And I had to laugh because I'm like, okay, you rolled a stop sign.
I did that this morning.
I appreciate you telling me, but it had no impact for us.
Yeah.
But we've had more positive feedback and more acknowledgement than anything else, than any pushback with this.
It sounds like it almost opened up a new level of communication with the employee, more openness even.
It did. And for our employees, they knew that, hey, you know what? And then I told, hey, we don't check traffic, so just so you know. But if you want to know, I can show it to you if I can look it up, but no big deal. But it was an open communication. It wasn't a big deal. There was no threat or concern or, on their part, anxiety. And again, it just goes back to open communication and understanding why we do the things we do. And again, providing protection and safety of our employees, our assets, and our clients.
Right. Question, is this, so you use the example of a trucking company. So a trucking company might care more about driving infractions, especially if they had their license revoked, perhaps. Could that be used as cause for termination if their primary job is driving a truck and you no longer can drive a truck?
That it depends on their policy. It really depends on the company. Is it a negative impact or an adverse impact on their position? Again, it may not be that they can be terminated. Maybe they need to be reassigned to something that does not involve driving until they can get that corrected.
Another thing I was looking at, it's the orsusgroup.com. Orsus is ORSUS, if in case you're interested. One of the items, and you and I have talked about this, and this is your business partner, I think, does a lot of these things, but you do global investigations,
yes,
which is very similar to this, but it's much, much bigger. Talk a little bit about about what you guys do for these global investigations.
So yes, and so that's on my business partner, his side of the business. We are licensed investigators. So typically for licensed investigators, we're not detectives or private eyes or anything like that. What happens is
That's where my head actually went the first time I.
it always happens, right? Like you guys are PIs, or you guys doing surveillance, and not necessarily. What it is you have organizations where things happen, right? People steal, people embezzle. There may be a threat or something that could be adverse impact on their company. And we have licensed investigators, former FBI agents, police officers, and we'll conduct an investigation.
You were talking about the types of things that might happen, the harassment. I'm curious if, that's something where like an HR department who's investigating an issue might need more resources.
Absolutely.
So is that where this would come into play?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what we do is we come in and we will conduct, we call it interviewing. It's an investigation. Try to find, where the problem lies, who they suspect have been involved, and then address the situation. And then if it's a criminal type behavior, then it allows them to provide enough evidence to go into law enforcement to actually file charges. So I'll give you an example. I think last year we had a CFO. They were doing an audit, and there was about $80-something thousand missing. So we came in, looked at the books, find out where could $80-something thousand be missing. Spoke to a few people, spoke to the CFO, came back, went back to the CFO, and pretty much addressed we know it was actually you. We just want to know why. And he did admit it, that he had financial problems. He embezzled $80-something thousand. And
wow.
Wow.
And this is the CFO now. And latest and pretty much presented to HR, to CEO, and they decided if he can bring the money back, they won't prosecute, or they're going to file criminal charges against him. So,
wow.
Yeah, I mean that's a small piece, right? We've also had situations where payroll, people, an organization where a manager created fictitious employees, a large organization, and then he started paying himself more money through these fictitious individuals to probably about $200,000-$300,000.
Would you say when companies have those types of issues, they're typically bringing in some sort of investigator? Like, are big companies trying to solve those fraud issues themselves, or are they always bringing in some sort of investigator?
A combination, depending on the size and depending if they have the expertise, and also if they have their own security. The large companies will typically have their own security department, but even those guys, they will outsource that work over to us because they just don't have the bandwidth. The mid-sized companies, they may try to, address it, figure this out. But again, a lot of it is, do you have the investigative type background to really conduct these type of investigations to determine if the person, committed this crime or not? So we've done executive protections. And when we do our investigation, when we say global, I can tell you one example where over in Brazil, a client of ours called us and there was a $5 million theft of nickel scrap. And nickel scrap is quite a bit. We went there, started interviewing people, and basically discovered that it was the security guard working on certain shifts would bring in it's kind of like a Brazilian type gang and take the scrap and just drive it off the site, off the premise.
Wow. How do you get a company in Brazil?
Well, it's actually a U.S. company, but they have a location in Brazil.
Got it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of our companies they have a global footprint.
I'd be curious. I know we're talking about this product, with the ongoing checking with your investigation line, but just basic background checks. So when I talk to potential payroll clients, to be honest, background checks don't come up a lot. And so I wouldn't always know whether these companies are doing something or not. Unless they're asking me, I don't tend to bring it up. And I assume they're asking me because, well, either they've had a policy in place, coincidentally, or they've been burned, so now they're looking for it. You told us a story about the hospital and somebody who had the drug conviction. I'm wondering if you could speak to any other horror stories or risks that you've seen in small businesses that kind of say, hey, these are the things you could run into. Here's why any small business really should consider having a background check in place.
Oh yeah, I mean small businesses. If you look at them, I would say they've had more problems. It's just not known because they just typically fire the person or whatnot, right? But it ranges from hiring someone who had a theft or some type of violent behavior, or I know a small business where they hired a salesperson and didn't realize he had a DUI and he had to suspend the license, right? Home care companies, in Michigan, it's not regulated, private duty care. So you're bringing these people on board, caretakers, to work in someone's home because that client can't physically take care of themselves. Well, they got full reign of the house. You got checkbooks, you got jewelry. So if you're not doing a background check and realize, hey, this person had a history of theft or history of fraud or a disorderly conduct, again, it depends on what you're really looking for. Maybe that person's not a good fit because it's posing a bigger risk for that organization.
Do you think, again, because like I said, I'm ignorant. I don't know what small businesses are necessarily using this. Most organizations that I've worked for have done some sort of background check, and knock on wood, I've always passed them. But do you know what percentage of small businesses are not doing this? Or are there a lot of people who are exposing themselves to risk? Or do you feel like most people are running a legitimate business with a legitimate payroll and things like that have probably incorporated some sort of background check?
Yeah. I don't know the percentage, but I will tell you that more of the small businesses that I encounter do not do background checks until something happens. And then, in fact, we just brought on a client, a small manufacturing company. They didn't do background checks, but they wanted to start doing background checks because they were getting bigger. They had 30 employees. They're going to double in size to 60. The people that they hired were just referrals from friends and family. So typically they think, hey, you know what? There's a friend, there's a family. I trust them, and it's reasonable to think that, right? But then we start hiring more people, then it becomes a bigger problem, or you're exposing yourself to more risk. The more small businesses that I've encountered do not run background checks, and because they feel like I don't need to.
That would have been my suspicion, just based off it not coming up, is they're not doing it. I just didn't know if they were. I was ignorant to it. So I have some people ask us, well, how small is too small for to do payroll, right? If I just have one person, should I just do it myself? And I always say, if you have payroll, you could always take advantage of using a payroll company. It's not like necessarily we're bookkeeping where maybe you got to make enough money to really start to make it make sense to work with a, real bookkeeper. Is the same true with background checks? Is there a threshold? If you have one employee, does it make sense that you should probably be doing background checking? Or is it no, you're getting up into 30 employees and, you're casting a wider net on an employment pool. That's when you should start looking. Or what would your advice be on that?
It depends on the industry that you're in and your comfort level, right? I'm not going to say that you have to. Some industries you're required to, others you're not. We have clients where they just run one screen a year, and they're a 3 or 4 man company. That's it. But they're in their minds, this is what they want to do. So this is a smart move. So, I have another financial firm where they hire one person. I think they've only hired 3 folks in the past 3 years. But it's a financial services company, it's an investment firm. So, it really doesn't matter about the number of employees or the size of your organization. It's really, are you comfortable with hiring this person in your organization, especially if there's only 3 or 4 people, and it could have a bigger impact if there's a person who wants to cause harm.
No, that's absolutely right. And I do it because I have to bond all of my employees because we have a tax trust.
Yeah.
And our trust requires it. So I have to run a background screen. Why haven't you reached out to me, Will, about doing this continuous background screen product, though? I don't understand.
I apologize. That's my fault.
I like the sound of it, actually.
But also think about this. Insurance, your company's insurance policy may require you to do a background check. Right?
Maybe professional liability, especially, or something.
Professional liability or general liability. There's most likely a checkbox saying, do you do background checks on your employees?
Eric, are you worried if you do this ongoing investigation or background checks that you're going to lose some of your staff? Because I'm concerned about a few people.
I could be. I actually ran one on myself when I hired myself in, just check that box. I actually ran another one a few years ago just to see, did I do something I didn't know I did? So I would have no problem even for my own peace of mind, because people can steal your social and open up credit cards. Maybe I have a stolen identity and somebody did something dumb with it.
I want to know if it's sophisticated enough to pick up on the beard length growth. So from the first time you did it to the.
Oh my goodness!
Awesome. But I would say, no, I've never, when we launched our monitoring, we've yet to have any pushbacks from our employees and our clients and their employees. It's always been positive. And really, for the ones that they run the monitoring, in this since last year, we've had, well, not counting my employee with the traffic violation or the rolling stop sign, but we only had 1 incident. And they didn't terminate that person. They just addressed it and say, hey, you just got to get this taken care of. That was it. But the feedback that I got from that client was, thank you for letting us know that we're aware, we addressed it. And in fact, that employee actually went to them and said, hey, I got this. And so it creates this open communication. There's this awareness, this transparency, and never had an issue.
I know you just said you haven't run into this, but I've got 10 employees. Let's say one of them is just adamant, no, I do not want to have this checking on me every day or whatever. Could I give them, fine, you don't need it, but the rest of the 9 of you do need it, or is it all or nothing?
I would, you're getting to the sticky situation where, okay, well, why can't he have it? But you're doing this on us, right? And then it gets to, you got to be careful with the potential discrimination issues as well. Why doesn't he want it? And keep in mind, it's not a monitoring to know, and it's not a monitoring where I'm going to know everything you do. It's a monitoring of, if you do something, I'm going to know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't care. I'm not going to know what time you go to bed at night. I'm not going to know where you go shopping. I'm not going to know any of that. It's, if there is a criminal conduct, a misconduct, and you end up getting in trouble, then we're going to know.
So they could do something dumb, not get in trouble, and you'll never know. They could do it again, get caught that time. Now you'll know.
Yeah.
Got it. Is there anything, Will, that you wanted to share with our listeners that we haven't gone over about any of your products or services, or anything that we didn't ask that you wanted to tell folks about?
There's so many different products and services, but it's not about the products and services. It's more of when I talk to companies, what is your risk exposure? What type of risk are you willing to take? Because especially for small businesses, where you have these owners and they start this business and this is their baby, and you're trying to grow this, and you don't need a disruption. You don't need these type of frustrations that can really damage your reputation or hurt the business. And everyone has a different level of risk exposure. And me personally, I would say do a background check. This is going to give you a peace of mind, right? You'll know that you did the right thing. You did your due diligence to protect your organization and the people within.
So if people want to learn more about your services or, maybe even sign up, how can they get a hold of you guys?
Well, you can reach me directly at wmontgomery@theorsusgroup.com, or you can reach our main line, which is 248-530-3680. We'll have one of our account managers or myself reach out to you and help you with whatever you're looking for.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Willie. Good luck with growing the business. And if I could give you some of my beard hair for your head, I would.
I'm actually jealous.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for the conversation.
Thank you.
Saliva non sa malo. Twice again.